Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. I'm here with Tyler Jones and Glen Willis, and we decided to do a podcast even though nothing much is really happening right now. Hawks are just a boring team. No sidelines, no off the field stuff, like just ho hum. No, nothing really happening.
No, no drama.
No potential trades, no big injuries. It's all just smooth sailing.
Yeah, no hum.
Win a game, you lose a game, lose a game, you lose a game, you win you get it. Where do you want to start?
Well, uh, got to start with the bad news about Jalen. Um, so you know, it's a labrum tear for a basketball player isn't that common, but if you play for the Hawks, it feels like it's just going to happen. So, it's been him, Kobe Buffkin, Onyeka Okongwu, and also I think Al Horford tore both his labrums
Yeah, I was gonna say
earlier
two.
in his career. So, like the Hawks might have like a monopoly on the labrum tears. I think Paul George might have torn it one year, and I can't remember the others. Like it's not a common basketball injury; it's a very common football injury. But yeah, tough. It's really tough for him, just because of like I feel bad for Jalen. Just it's kind of his real breakout season where he's getting national attention. And he at before the other chest or whatever happened with his right shoulder, before that started creeping up, he was playing some of the best basketball I've seen from him. And then when he tried to come back, like even when he was coming back, it wasn't the same. It seemed like uh he was struggling with some stuff physically, and it was affecting other areas of the game of his game. So like it's unfortunate. I kind of suspected when he got hurt against the Raptors that it was probably a labrum tear. And like that's the type of injury uh you can play through it, but like it's so painful. Like it has to be we're on a trajectory to potentially win a title, or like we're playing for something. It's not something I would advise anybody to play through if you don't have to, just because of how like severely painful it is. Like it legitimately feels like you're getting your arm ripped off every time it you hurt it. So it sucks if you're a Hawks fan, but I do think this opens I do on the positive side, I do think this opens up opportunities for other players.
Yeah, and it gives the Hawks a chance to view the rest of the season as time to get the books right for the next season. You can line up your deadline deals so that whatever salary goes out and or comes in, you're lining it up for what you want to have on the books for next season. So they can, if you know, if they don't sign players like if Clint Capella expires as a free agent, they can't just go sign his replacement. They're over the cap. So like, whatever you want to do to get lined up for next season, you now with some outgoing money, you match it with the ingoing money, and you can kind of line things up for what you want and with respect to that. So given that they were only a good basketball team when Jalen was on the court, I think they're going to do that. Like it's not a tank for lottery picks. It's not that kind of situation. It's just, you know, view everything in terms of, what can we do for October 2025.
Um yeah, so like uh that's that's something I've been thinking about, with how this season is also played out. I do think it's important that the Hawks aren't so like up against the tax if they're not going to pay it, because they for the last couple seasons they've just not been able to adjust their roster if injuries happen. Like if they lose like an important player, they can't just go out there and like trade for somebody or sign somebody without having to worry about salary constraints. So they can't adjust to what's actually happening on the court, and they can't like construct the roster properly. It's why they don't currently have a backup point guard. They don't currently have a backup a real backup power forward until they brought Mo Gay into the fold, and maybe we'll talk about him a bit more. But like they, I do think the Jalen Johnson injury does open up opportunities for other players like a Mo Gay. Maybe gives Dyson some more room to grow offensively because they're going to need it from him more without Jalen on the floor. But also, I think it potentially, with Bogey being away from the team now, Capella having back spasms, after the game starts, apparently, there might be something where they're like, why don't we try to clear the deck here and figure out where to go from a book standpoint so that next season, if we want to put a team together, we have like we can put a team together, and then like if one injury happens, it doesn't just completely wreck our season like what it feels like the last couple seasons of it. Even though this year they've recovered a bit more, um, yeah, but like I mean, the unfortunate news, with Jalen being out, it's going to be a real struggle for them to get wins, especially against good teams.
Yeah, I mean that position is just in tough shape, right? I mean, you can't play Roddy heavy minutes at the four on defense. We talk about it doesn't work, right? It just doesn't work. Moge is kind of a long way away on offense, but it's not a surprise. He's not very experienced, right? There's a couple times he was in the wrong spot from where Trey wanted him, things like that. But again, that shouldn't be a surprise. And if this is an opportunity to give him reps and let him play, then there's value to be realized there. I don't know how they manage that position though in their current state. I don't know if there's a way to add some cheap veteran that's available at the trade deadline for a fake second round. It'd be nice if they had just a veteran that could give them 20 minutes a game that's just solid, stable, that kind of thing. Because statistically, like when Hunter plays with the Kongwu, the rebounding's tough. And just generally the lineups when Hunter plays the four, their net rating is pretty upside down. And so I don't think they should go out and do like anything that's going to cost them a significant outlay. It'd be nice just to get just a middle of the road steady veteran that can play those minutes, so Hunter doesn't have to play it, and so that you can have a plan for how many minutes you want Moge to play this year, not and not play him more than he really should, given the back issues he's had and stuff like that. So it's gonna be interesting to see if they do something to address that position. I feel like I've been the most positive person on Roddy, even though I say out loud, can't play him at power forward on defense. I say that over and over. But you spend any amount of time on Hawks Twitter or Blue Sky, and Hawks fans are just not interested in watching him play basketball. It seems like.
That I
Um,
am one of those Hawks fans, by the way.
And
Uh,
it's,
so
he's going to expire, so it's not like he has a future with the team. Like if you're viewing what's left of this season as, a dress rehearsal for October 2025, like you're not tanking, but you want to play the players that you see having a vested future with the team. Like David Roddy's not one of them. So like
yeah, and there's more
only do you
value to
not
be
expect
realized
him
from
to be
playing.
back. So they have no real interest in his development.
Yeah, there's more value in playing Moget and letting him get the reps and development, for sure. But there's going to be some mistakes and some inconsistency and things like that. But it's one of those things where you just even in the game and you watch the game, the last game or two he's played, it's like he's showing up weak side rim protection stuff.
I mean, the,
David Roddy can't do that ever. He's on the offensive glass. He's got speed. He switches. He has a ton of defensive range. He can get from the corner of the rim back to the corner. He just has that kind of outlier athletic and verticality that
yes.
even if he's doing the wrong stuff, he can recover with his youthful ability and athleticism and stuff like that. So I think Hawks fans would be excited to see him get whether it's 15, 18 minutes a game the rest of the way or whatever it might be. And if he starts playing more consistently, why not more down the stretch? So I think there's value in giving him.
I mean, defensively, he's been fantastic. I feel like he's been good since summer league, truly. And like that's a real weapon, and that's kind of where the NBA is going now with these power forwards, where if you want if you want to like really create an advantage for your team, have these multi-positional forwards who can defend the rim, rebound, and then also like pass, like be decent passers on the offensive side of the floor. And I think Mo Gay kind of fits that mold and be a decent finisher. Like I to me, uh, I'm glad it's unfortunate Jalen Johnson got hurt for this to finally happen, but I felt pretty consistently that if Mo Gay played backup power forward minutes like for the Hawks this season, it, they'd be better at least overall as a team, as opposed to trying DeAndre Hunter at the four. It's just not a winning basketball. He does not have the athleticism to play the position to what you're needed from the position today. Like he just doesn't. He hasn't had it throughout the entirety of his career. He especially doesn't have it now with his knee issues. But like, you just need more burst from that position because other teams are putting their most bursty, physically gifted player at that position. You got to be able to match that physicality. Like the Rockets game, I thought Mo did an incredible job just like nullifying Amin Thompson. Like Amin Thompson, I don't know if people have been aware, he's been playing like an all-star caliber player. Like, he's been incredible. But like against the Hawks, like he couldn't physically get by Mo Gay. He couldn't score around him. He couldn't shoot over the top. He couldn't do anything like unless it was in transition when Mo Gay was not on the floor. So like that's a boon for the Hawks because they're going to need that, especially with Jalen no longer available. Like they need that athletic, big power forward to match these monsters in the NBA. Because like though I think Zachary Ricochet might be able to get there physically, he's not there right now. He's just too skinny. Though defensively, I think he actually holds up really well at that end, but it's probably not something you want to throw a 19-year-old at. Mo's a bit more physically developed.
It's nice to see him as an athletic finisher. Like, with Zachary, like if he gets an offensive rebound in the paint, like he can't, he's not going to be able to kind of get back up and get something. And, with Clint, like that was something he used to be able to do. He can't do it now. Like watching Mo when he got his offensive rebounds, like how quickly he got back up to get over contests. That was a refreshing change of pace from what we've seen on a lot of the offensive rebounding. But at the same time with Mo though, it's not like he's been this guy the whole season. Like in College Park, like at the beginning of the season, like he was not NBA ready in October, November, December, like whether it was because he was working back from injury. Like he looked great in College Park at the end of last season. And then when he was in College Park at the beginning of this season, it's like, well, wait, what happened? Like I think, I asked him some questions last night. He didn't really lead me anywhere with it. So I don't really know, but to me, it looks like he's just healthier or something than he was a few months ago.
Yeah,
Possible.
physically is a big part of it.
Yeah.
Like if you remember preseason, he hurt himself
Yeah.
again, and like he was trying to play through it because he had missed so much time his rookie year. So that's probably like a big factor for what was going on with him.
Yeah. What it would, maybe it's just obvious, but what do you take away from this point of the recent absences of Bogdan Bogdanovic and Clint Capella? I mean, it's just pretty much straight. Well, they're just making sure that they're healthy at the trade deadline. It's just that, right?
The timing makes the normal person scratch their head, you know. And the Hawks aren't the only team doing stuff like this right now. You know, tradition unlike any other. Borrow that phrase for a second, just like making up reasons to not play a guy within 2 weeks of the trade deadline. Bogey, they're citing personal reasons. Who knows what that means? I mean, that's a broad category to drop a lot of different situations into, and no one's gonna probably tell you what's really going on there. but we're 8
And
days from the
today he
trade
was
deadline.
listed as not with the team, so he didn't. At least at the beginning, he's not going on this trip.
Yeah. But I mean, let's played a lot, and so it could just be legitimate that he needs a break, or what have you. And the Nance came back for one game, looked like it was pretty premature. You admire him for trying to go out there and help his team, but man, he didn't look ready. That first game he played really. So with Clint, I mean, it's interesting because to me, he is such he is such an impactful guy from the standpoint of the way he goes about leadership, selflessness, and things like that. But at the same time, you're trying to line yourself up for the roster you want to have next year, you know, and hashtag it's a business, and one of those things. So I mean, it's going to be really interesting. To me, when the Jalen injury happened, it looked bad right away. Like I thought
Yeah.
he's not playing again. I'm not a doctor, so but it looked. I mean, he ran off the court immediately and was in a significant amount of pain. You're like, that's not a bruise, and that looks like what happens when you tear something. Just going back from what it looks like, right? And now with the Jalen situation, it's like, well, are the Hawks as they approach the deadline going to just start working through the plan faster to set them up, just like you said, Kevin, for the summer that they want to try to capitalize on, right? Or you know, I mean, if they added marginal pieces, they're probably still a playing team. I mean, in their current
There
form, they defend. In the current form, they defend really well. They can't score when they need to in the fourth quarter, but they can defend, and those sorts of things. And like we talked about before, part of it, if they can stay in that 7 to 10 range, part of that matters on which other teams in the East might sell, which other teams in the East kind of fall out, and things like that. But um, we've been saying they've been trying to balance winning and developing. And I think the Jalen injury kind of swings that balance a little bit more different, a little bit more towards development and future facing moves. Where if you had Jalen, you can play Jalen plus Trey, you know, plus those two basically with who you need, Dyson and Hunter. If you could play those guys reliably, this team could have got out of the play-in. That feels like a tough outcome for them to realize now to me.
Yeah.
so like for me, something that's also changed, I want to take the Jalen injury out of it because there's also another factor that's going on here. I do think part of why the Hawks are more ready to trade Bogey and Capella is that guys have stepped up in their roles. Like Dyson Daniels has more or less completely has a lock hold on the two guard position, three guard position, and backup point guard position. Like to me, I think Dyson's like emergence as a legitimate starter plus borderline potentially could be a borderline all-star caliber player has kind of pushed Bogey down the pecking, combined with DeAndre Hunter's emergence as a legit scorer in this league. Like I just think Bogey's just not as valuable to the Hawks as he used to be. Bogey from any previous season, if Bogey was shooting 30% from three, and giving you virtually nothing offensively outside of 3-point shooting, and he's only shooting 30%, the Hawks would be sunk. Like just absolutely sunk. But like truth be told, like it's kind of like it's honestly, it's almost as if Bogey hasn't really played this season for the Hawks. Like the Bogey they've been expecting has not been there, but they've played their best basketball in spite of his play. And so like I do wonder if there's certain level of well, we have Bogey. I mean, we have Dyson Daniels. We have DeAndre Hunter signed to a long-term contract. We want to sign Dyson Daniels to a long-term contract, rookie contract extension. Kobe Buffkin's a guard who needs to play. I think, and like Bogey defensively at the four positions just doesn't work. I think Bogey's kind of getting squeezed out and getting phased out of the rotation naturally, even before the Jalen Johnson injury. I think that's a factor. And if we want to move on to Capella, I think Okongwu's emergence defensively, like he's just been so like since he's come back, he's been so much better defensively. since the whatever was going on with his lower body injuries. Like he's just been so good. Where for the first time in Capella's career as a Hawk, he's not that valuable to the team. Like, not to say he's not a good player, not he doesn't provide good things for the Hawks, but it's like, there are long stretches where I'm like, man, they got to get a Congu back out there. Like, I really felt that against the Rockets. I really felt it was like the Hawks really need to get a Congu out there on the floor to get some, um, settle what the Rockets were doing on offense because they were able to go on their little run when Nance was in the game over a Congu a bit. So like to me, I just think a Congu's ascendance and Dyson's ascendance plus DeAndre Hunter has made those two guys less valuable to the Hawks, which makes them more viable to be traded. Which you could not say this for those two guys in years past.
Yeah, I mean, Hunter's value's never been higher, based on how he's playing this year. Um, and there are things that they would miss. Um, but at the same time, they need more just another top player in a higher offensive tier than what they have right now. And if that's something that's there, you can't be shy about making a move that puts because the offense is what needs to be advanced with this team right now. It's the
Yes,
offense, right? And
and they
Hunter's been
and importantly, Glenn, they need it from the forward position. They need it from the forward
exactly,
position offense,
yeah,
like in ways that they're like Bogey can't do it. Bogey is a one position player, and like the Hawks can't just go out there. The Hawks can't just throw Trey Dyson Bogey out there on the floor together and be like, okay, Dyson, you guard the point of attack. Bogey, Trey, who are we hiding on who? And like this issue has that's been a long-standing issue for the Hawks for like the last couple seasons. Truthfully, it's kind of capped their ceiling as a team, where it's like Trey Bogey together on defense just doesn't work. But they've made it work just because they're so overwhelming on offense. But now with Bogey backsliding offensively, it's like what are we doing here? Like we're not getting anything from Bogey, and like we got we got to figure something out. And with Dyson, Garrison, even somebody like Garrison Matthews, like we can afford to trade Bogey now in ways you couldn't say in years past.
It's almost like
yeah,
part of it to me is like they're better defensively. And so now it's more disruptive to play bogey. Like when you already have a bad defense, like the
Yeah.
last year, the season before that, and it's like, well, you take out your defender in quotes and put in bogey, and it's like, well, did the defense really take that much of a hit? And the answer then was no. The defense wasn't really good without bogey, and it wasn't good with bogey. But now, if you've got bogey in there, he's not a good enough defender to maintain the level when you've already got Trey out there who is competing on defense, and you really only got like one hiding spot at most, and so that's where Trey's going to be. So it's like they can put together this cohesive defense, but they can't get that with Bogey, and he's not enough of a help to the offense to offset it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and other data points matter too, right? I mean, like you still remember the play-in game against Miami where Glen just rolled Sadiq and Bogey and just smoked. I mean, but you also could see the way they managed the roster going into the next season that wasn't really what they wanted the template to be, right? And the other data point that matters to me is you can get away with stuff like that when you have 27-year-old Clint Capella, right?
Yeah.
Every year, right, he's losing what 5 to 10% of his kind of game to game capacity in a way, or it's up and down. You get older, things like it's just like me, like I might have a great work day on Monday. I wake up on Tuesday and I was like, man, I'm I don't feel like I did yesterday, that kind of thing. But that little data points like that really factor in. Like we're not getting from Clint what we were 2 years ago, just because of natural, aging, wear and tear, whatever you want that to be. And that matters too. But I mean, I think they are trying to build a team that can play defense. And I think it's obvious to everyone who watches them that they need one more higher tier offensive player if they can find a way to materialize that. And then maybe then maybe they have more, distribution of offensive and defensive capability across first unit, second unit, et cetera, which is something they've not been able to do this year.
I mean, it feels less and less relevant. Any thoughts about this losing streak?
It's
I mean,
I just wanted to say it's been unfortunate because they've been playing so well defensively to me. Like I they're playing some of the best. They are literally playing the best defense they've ever played on a Trae Young team, in the Trae Young era. Like the defense has been fantastic. I have no complaints there. Offensively, like they're just not making shots. Combined with they have a bunch of guys who are not great finishers at the rim as well. So it's like a combination of we're not making our open threes. We're also not able to finish through contact consistently. So teams are able to defend us pretty easily, right? And we just miss quality shots. Like it's not like their process is bad. Like overall, I get Hawks fans being mad about this, that, and the third. But I'm watching. I'm like, the process is good. They just don't have the quality offensive talent that what they've used to had, like what they've used to had in Trae Young era. Like DeJounte Murray's not here. Bogey more or less is Bogey basically has not been here for the Hawks the entire season. That has hurt them. Like I can't stress that enough. That has hurt them, and it's really hurt them during this stretch. Uh, even somebody like Ricochet who has been out recently, even though he struggles finishing, like, but he creates opportunities for offensive rebounds based on his activity level, his size, athleticism. He has to be challenged. He has to be, he might not make the shot, but he can create space for an Onyeka Okongwu or Clint Capella to come in and finish uh behind him. They don't have that. They haven't had that athleticism, that burst with Ricochet and Jalen Johnson. Like they've really, I think the biggest thing is during this stretch, what's going on with the offense is like in transition without Jalen, it's just a lot harder for this team to get efficient looks on and when they do get them, they're not finishing them at the rate you expect of even a decent NBA offense.
yeah, I mean, I watched them play and I admire them working hard, committing to the defense, and you watch them and as someone who wants to see the team do well, see the players do well, you feel frustration for them, and I feel like I feel like I'm experiencing more frustration than they are. They're just not staying on task and trying to kind of continue kind of working forward. I mean, these last few games they've been right in there at the last 2 minutes to go. In this last game they were right there at the end. I thought if maybe Quinn could have challenged that foul call on Yeka, and that maybe
Yeah.
that I mean, it's so easy for us to see when
It
you see it on TV and you get 8 replays. I mean, Quinn has like 20 seconds to work through that decision
Glenn,
point.
but like the replays are so tough because I don't know what the standard is to overturn a call.
Yeah.
Because I'm 85% sure they just would have said, well, Trae Young fouled because he hit him on the arm.
Yeah.
Like I'm confident that's what the ruling would be. I know what the last 2 minute report said, but it's so inconsistent. What's incidental contact? What's not? What
Yeah.
what's 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 a charge? What's not? Like I don't like honestly. I don't know how. It's just a pure gamble. Like it's just a pure gamble based on the interpretation of what the referee considers a foul. And
Yeah.
like for the Hawks, it's like sometimes hands part of the ball, sometimes it's not. I'm like, I don't know. So I would have challenged it regardless, just because you're down four. Like it's the
Yeah,
end of the
time and
game.
score is the reason you challenge.
Time and
Like
score is
I
the
think
yeah.
time and score, you go with it there.
But I think Quinn won it was like a man's not a good free throw shooter. He missed both free throws, so like it didn't matter. And like I think that's the gamble he was going with. Like I still got my two timeouts. Granted, the Hawks had to burn them because Trae fell down. They had it was two timeout. They had
Yeah,
two
there were two
timeouts
timeouts
left.
up, but I thought he made one of the free throws.
I can't remember, but I mean, Amin's not a good free throw shooter.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think
I
that
hear what you're
that was
saying.
the calculus
Yeah.
Yeah.
calculus
Yeah.
going.
Um, I think he missed them both. I think I missed them both.
Yeah, he
Um,
missed them both.
but even the bogey toe to toe thing was, I mean, just ridiculous,
That was
And
Garrison.
so, or sorry, Garrison,
Yeah,
Garrison.
that was tough.
And the thing is right in the NBA, a trip is always a foul. And Jimmy Butler is the greatest. I'm going to make you trip me foul merchant that ever played basketball ever since the sport was ever invented. People
Going
will
in the
run
Hall of
into
Fame
you
for
and trip over you and get the foul and it's the right call in terms of the way they're implemented. That was not a trip. Anyway, but the other part about challenges is I imagine coaches have to be like, do I trust this crew to get this right? Like, am I going to gamble we're playing from down 2 points, 4 points, whatever the score was at the time, and I'm going to use one of my precious timeouts on and trust this group to get it right?
Right.
That has to be a part of the thought process, I
Yeah.
would think.
Oh, yeah.
And the officiating, there were two good officials on the floor last night, and there was one official that struggled the whole game. And even the tech on Trey was crazy. Just I mean, just it didn't make any sense. So I think at
Kevin.
that point, if I'm quit, I'm like, these guys are not inspiring confidence in me that they're going to get this right. So I'm going to just keep my timeout. You can kind of see that thought process making some sense.
Kevin, did we get did the referees give an explanation for why Trey got the tech? Because I didn't. I had the game on mute.
I don't
I
think they
didn't
used
also
the
listen
word
to it.
headbutt, but there was something to that effect that he moved in and made
Context, yeah,
contact.
yeah.
So if you
And
watch Trey's
Jason,
head on the replay, there might have been some contact where he hit Dylan Brooks with his head first. And that was the I'm not getting the wording right, but that was the essence of what was. It was weird too, though, but because it was, uh, what do you call that? I forget what you call those, but it was the slowest one ever.
Escalation.
Like the appeal to the referee to get the referee's input on what a call was. Like they're usually fast. Like somebody conducts the interview and you get it 2 minutes later, and this one took like 20. It was why is it taking so long? I don't know.
yeah, were they looking at the play again? Were they talking to the poll reporter?
No,
I mean,
because the words were already, whatever the transcript, it's just a transcript. So whatever has said was already said. It just took forever in the processing. I wanted to say one thing about the losing streak. That one of the things that is I think has really hurt the Hawks over the last couple of games is they have it's too dependent on Keaton Wallace's decision making, which hasn't been good. Like he's been a big part of what their success on defense has been. But when he's making reads, he's missing stuff. Like he's trying to force a
Yeah.
pass to somebody that's not open. There's somebody that should be an obvious, easy, open pass. Like he is there, and maybe it's something where this is an opportunity. Like you play him enough and he learns through it and gets better at it. But, you know, when we look at this stretch of games where it's like, okay, the offense isn't up to snuff and the defense is, like I think, it's always been what happens in the non-Trey minutes for sure. But some of the stuff is happening with Trey on the floor too. They were playing Trey with Keaton a lot last night, and you know, in those situations, Keaton was still trying to make some plays, and just he's just missing reads too often, and it's really hurtful to the offense. So I think that's something that's putting a real drag on the offense in the last couple of games.
At least for the last two.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
I
last
can
two.
see that.
yeah,
But
yeah.
like it's I'm overall like you're asking somebody to
That's
do
fair.
something you
But
like
to me, though,
Keaton offensively. Go ahead. Go ahead.
but to me, I get that you might want to develop him. I still want to see the ball. I want Dyson having the ball. Like I think he needs to learn
Yes.
more. Like I just think he should be getting the reps. I think he should be on in the majority of the non-Trey minutes. Like I think they need to run the reps with him as a backup point guard. Even if he's not the backup point guard next season, I think he just needs those reps on offense to get comfortable and just develop. Like in a weird way to me, the Jalen Johnson injury is an opportunity for Dyson as an offensive player in transition because he's the
Yes.
only guy that they've got right now that you want with the ball in the middle of the floor trying to put pressure on the rim in transition. Like that was Jalen's job, absolutely 100% until he got hurt. But that's not a Trey thing. It's not going to be a Riza Shea thing. There are so many other players you can cross off the list. Like he's the one. Like you need him trying to find the floater, find a Euro step, maybe just kind of do a change of pace and get a layup. But like that's going to be really valuable reps for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Keaton should play defense and he's reasonably good catch and shoot.
Yeah.
So, not more than that.
All right. Well, with newsworthy stuff, we will do this again very soon. But for right now, let's just say good night, Bob.
Good night, Bob.
Good night, Bob.